Yeah, I think she said something about how she's always putting together to renovate. And then they both play like balls and balls. Yeah, part of it is really weird. One of those words that I've always had love and football.
So you won't, they won't. Make it
Good evening.
What happened here?
Hello.
How you feeling, Bob?
I'm not doing great actually, but okay to run the meeting, I think, except I just lost the video here.
Oh, I can see you,
Is that right?
which is,
Hey, let's see what goes on here. So weird. Okay, I think I'm back again. I can see people. Good enough then.
Bob, you sound really good. Feeling better?
I'm definitely better. Kind of solid here. Well, I've been accused of that before, so that's no problem. So anyway, let's see, 5:30. It is there now. Well, not quite. Whoa. I got back on with a minute to spare. Everybody's staying healthy, except for Mike, apparently. Oh.
And I called and wished him a speedy recovery. Sorry, some people, and I hope he's not one of them, kind of end up with him being long haulers.
Yeah. Yeah, he did not sound good earlier when I talked to him.
well, was he positive for COVID or is this something else?
Indeed, it certainly is. Yeah, yeah. We've got a house full of it as well. Not me, however, I'm still negative, so I'm dodging the bullet here. But I don't know for how long. I've had something, but not that apparently. So,
Yeah, because I thought your wife said you had tested negative, at I think the last meeting she mentioned that or something.
yeah. And so let's see here. Let me turn my video up or my audio a bit. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good to see everyone. I see, okay, and Phyllis is here. There's Jimmy. Okay, hello, everybody.
Hi, Jimmy.
Nathan's on here as well. So, all right, the 2022 budget request is the primary subject. Actually, looks like the only subject, which is rather broad ranging for tonight's work session. And so if you do want to go ahead and take this, Andy or Jonathan, I'm not sure where to chime in here.
Sure, Bob, thank you. I'll go ahead and kick it off.
Okay.
This is a continuing discussion of the highlights of the 2022 budget requests. At our last meeting, we focused primarily on the budget, on the police department budget requests for 2022. And we'd like to see if we can get through the highlights of the rest of the requests for 2022 with the other departments. So I'd like to start out with requests that affect all departments. And in your packet, you do have the budget 22 highlights. So I'll generally follow that outline unless council would like to go a different direction on a particular item. So affecting all departments, of course, our biggest investment is in our personnel. We're service oriented business, and the heart of our service delivery is our people. So we do each year try to make adjustments as our budget allows to wages based in part on the consumer price index. And the consumer price index over the past year, July to July, has gone up 3.5%. So that's just trying to keep up at 3.5%. So we try to at least have an increase that would cover the CPI in the greater Denver area. And so what we'd like council to consider is a minimum 4% wage salary increase. This is consistent with what council has been willing and able to do in recent years. And there would also likely be some adjustments that would need to be made based on the new salary schedule that was adopted by council a little earlier this year, based on a survey that we do of comparable municipalities every couple of years. We want to make sure that everyone is at least at the minimum of their range for the positions that were surveyed. And then there may need to be some internal equity adjustments based on years of service. So, but at a minimum, we're recommending a 4% wage or salary increase for employees for 2022. So that would be the first item I wanted to, one of the most important items I wanted to mention to council as far as the budget. Certainly it's one of our bigger investments. Any thoughts on that or comments? I know with the mayor that he supports the 4% and if he was able to join us here, he would have said the same as well.
Well, I think that number being you're going all the way back to July 2020, if you, I think the average is kind of low personally, because June, July, August, September, and now October, it's really been extremely high. And I know that's an average, but I think because you've got 8 months against 4 months, the average is kind of low. In my opinion, I think that 3.5 is not an accurate figure. I think it's on the low side, being that the first 8 months were relatively calm as far as inflation and cost of living. So I mean, I'm just saying, I think 4% is good. And I don't know if it really covers what's really happening out there.
I want to agree with Art. I also think that the way that government calculates CPI, and by the way, this is, if you're Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter.
Right.
The government tends to overlook things that cost us real money, like food, housing, the cost of energy. So I agree with Art. If anything, the 3.5 is woefully low on the CPI measured inflation, and 4% is probably at least a solid number that we could do for the employees here of the city.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we'll work with that within those parameters. The council will see, of course, the first draft of the budget coming up here very shortly. And over the next month, there are more adjustments that can be made, and that it's an ongoing process till we get to the final budget that's approved, the first regular meeting in December. So I just wanted to get some thoughts and guidance on that. So I appreciate your thoughts on that item.
Yeah, and I support it as well. I haven't spoken up yet, but I think that's a very reasonable and more realistic than 3.5. So
Okay.
I support it.
Thank you. Some good news. I have not seen a health insurance increase this low that's projected for next year, not projected, which has been quoted by our provider, our benefits provider, employee benefits provider for next year. 2%, only a 2% increase. And this is a very valued benefit by the employees, something that our city offers to the employees. We pay nearly all of the premium for our employees if they would like to be covered by the city's health insurance. Some, of course, some employees are covered by a spouse or significant other health insurance policy. So this is a very valued benefit. It's real money. It adds to the total compensation for our employees. But the good news is only a 2% increase. So that's very modest compared to what it often is. And often it's in double digits, at least 10% or more. So that's a little piece of good news. No increase in dental, vision, or life insurance, which are much lower costs to the city. Those are compared to health insurance. And then the city does not share on the cost of vision insurance. It's offered to employees if they would like to acquire it, but it's not a shared cost with the city.
Andy, I'm wondering, was there any kind of explanation from the courier about that low increase? Because intuitively, with everything going on since the beginning of last year, I would have thought the increase would have been, they had the perfect excuse, it seems to me, to bump it way up.
I would too, Bob. I'm not sure I can really explain it. One thing I will say is that we are part of a cooperative. This is an insurance cooperative that many municipalities in Colorado belong to. And so it enables particularly smaller cities like ourselves and towns to pull together into bargaining power for better rates. Again, we're not seeing any changes in our benefits either. That's also, I didn't mention that, but that's also a little unusual from year to year. Sometimes you'll say, okay, well, not much of an increase, but we are going to reduce these benefits or those benefits. And we didn't see that either. And I will say, I think our employees have been very satisfied overall with our offerings. Just based on the feedback that I've received and staff's received, that we offer Kaiser health insurance through Kaiser, but we also offer a non-Kaiser option, PPO, EPO option. And so that enables folks to have a little more in the way of choice. Some people like the Kaiser model because it's one-stop shopping, if you will. Others prefer to go a different route and have a little more choice of doctors outside of the Kaiser network. And also it enables employees who would like to use clinics that are closer or doctors that are closer to Idaho Springs, such as our clinic here in the city or up in Evergreen. Those are options for employees that have an EPO or PPO option. So again, it seems like in the last several years, we have a nice mix of offerings for employees to choose from.
Great. I quite frankly forgot that we were in a co-op with other cities. So that helps a great deal, no doubt. So, okay, go ahead, Andy.
It's called CEBT, the cooperative CEBT. It's a Colorado Employee Benefit Trust. So it's worked very well for us, give us more buying power. And we have had a few big claims in the last several years with our employees, unfortunately. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending how you look at it, you don't want to have big claims, but when you do, you want to have good coverage. So I know the employees have appreciated that.
I don't know about the co-op, but a lot of the insurance companies and doctors and all were reimbursed quite heavily through the federal programs, and maybe they felt get too much of an increase after being reimbursed. Might have been a little embarrassing, but their costs weren't as exorbitant as they would have been if they weren't reimbursed by Uncle Sam. So I think maybe that contributed. I don't know about the co-op, how that would work with them, but I would think they would have a little bit to do with it.
Yep. The last item that affects all departments is the city has not in the past and does not offer short-term or long-term disability policies. And I did talk with our CEBT representative about this possibility, and they did provide us with a quote. And I do recommend that we consider a long-term disability policy. This is a policy that would kick in typically, and I can get some more details for council on this when the draft budget is presented. Typically what this would be is it would take effect after 30 days. Often our employees, unless they've had a lot of tenure here and accrued leave, if they're disabled and sick and not able to work, they're not going to have PTO to cover typically after 30 days. They may, but in a lot of cases, they're not. And sometimes we as staff have been able to pull together in a couple of cases to share our leave with other people who are in need, and that can help here and there. We don't want any employee to get too low in their PTO, because the paid time off PTO, it covers not only time off, but also acts as the sick leave as well. And of course, as we all know, we think that, well, I'll never need my sick leave, but just at that point when you think you may not need it, you do. So this long-term disability would pay a portion of the salary. I think it's like 66 2/3. I'd have to double check that, but it's a substantial amount of the salary or the wage of the employee. And the total cost for 30 full-time employees, which the city currently has, would be, we have a few vacancies at the moment, would be $13,709, and that premium would spread over all departments, allocated proportionately among departments. That's the way we handle employee benefits. So I'd recommend that we consider this, because it definitely can help with employee retainage. If we have an employee that unfortunately has been temporarily disabled, and is able to, just needs a little long convalescence, seriously injured, it enables them to hang on, pay their bills, and hopefully recuperate and come back to work. So this is a fairly common benefit offered by municipalities throughout Colorado. I looked at a survey through CML, and it is quite common. We did also consider short-term disability, but after discussions with our carrier, we think to start out, we would be adequately covered with a long-term policy that would start after 30 days. But we could look at a short-term as well, but of course the cost would be higher. So what I would suggest is that we give this a shot and see how it works. Offer this as another option for employees that may be temporarily disabled. And of course, this is would not be in play if someone was injured on the job. That would be covered, of course, by workers' compensation that the city pays to an employee.
And also that 66.5%, 66.5% of the normal salary, that's non-taxable, I believe. So it's a little better than it really looks.
Right.
It's going to get them close to their net almost, not fairly close. And I think it would be a good thing. Am I figuring this right? Is that about $450 a person? Did I calculate? I just did it real quick. I don't know.
Yeah, you're real close.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a very modest premium in my view, considering the benefit to a lot of people. I'm kind of surprised at it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I would be all for it.
Okay.
Would support it.
Thank you. Jim?
Andy, if back to the PTO, if does our city, between the employees, if let's say that somebody is in need of PTO time and they run out, can the others from the city give to that individual? They can.
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Yep.
What a wonderful benefit that you guys let them do, because a lot of places won't do that. And that's a really, really cool thing, because for instance, I know we got to get going here, but Leo's mom, everybody at her work offered to give her the PTO needed so she could be home with Leo, and without her being punished per se from work, because she had run herself out. And her GM, she had acquired, thousands of hours through her other teammates at work, and they said no, they don't do that kind of thing. She wound up going on FMLA, which was very, very difficult, and a short-term disability type deal, to care for Leo, who got smashed by a semi. So he that's a really, really cool benefit program that allows the employees to have that if need be. And that, kind of a team thing coming together for one person. So cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for those comments.
The city offer Aflac?
Yes, that is a benefit. It's at the employee's cost, but yes, that is.
Yeah. So they have
employees sign up for that.
long-term, they have long-term and short-term.
They do.
Okay.
That
Yep.
was my other question. I provide that for all my employees, and it's really becoming a beneficial thing right now for Leo. So, Aflac is they're the most affordable, wonderful insurance that you could possibly own.
Very good. Alrighty, so those are the several items I wanted to mention that affect all departments. The next section is the administration. The first item is acquire public engagement technology and improve the city's website at an estimated cost of approximately $10,000. And John Kane did touch on that after the police presentation last week. And I think there seemed to be support for that we can certainly, I don't have the exact numbers on that, but I think John has identified a public engagement, and John, tell me if I'm wrong, but a public engagement platform that we could probably acquire for about $7,000. And then I'd like to have a few $1,000s extra for improvements to the website. I think in talking with John, the recommendation is that we stay with our current web platform. There are some improvements that we can make working with the Statewide Internet Portal Authority, that's SIPA. That's a kind of a quasi-governmental organization that's already given us a few grants, and they sponsor or they assist particularly smaller jurisdictions with technology needs. So I would recommend that we put in about $10,000 to, this will address one of our goals that the city adopted to try to enhance our public engagement and make sure our website is as useful and easy to use as possible. John, do you have anything to add to that item?
No, everything you said is about right. The one thing with the public engagement, there is depending on how we do it, one of the potential options, which is text messaging, which might help us talk to people we don't know, could have a variable price because it's dependent on how many we send. But I do think that it's within the range of budget Andy told us.
Hey, Jonathan, when your boss says something that you don't say about right, you say, yes, sir, that was perfect.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
John's always keeping me on track. I can tell you that.
Oh, I know. He's sharp.
Any
Yeah,
grants for that?
I believe John, John, why don't you speak to that? I know you've been speaking with SIPA about potential assistance from them. Do you have any update on that?
Yeah, the grant cycle starts in August, and I do think there's things we could do that would help us along these lines. And so it really depends on implementation schedule more than anything else, because typically you can't pay for things you've already done with the grant, but there is grant money available. And depending on how we phase this project, I think that's a reasonable option for us to pursue.
And John, aren't there also, is there still that mini grant potential through SIPA later this year, end of this year, early beginning of January? Isn't there?
I think they do have a small rolling grant, and we can figure that out.
So that we may be able to get $1,000 or $2,000 out of that mini grant program, which comes up pretty quick here. And I think, John, what you were speaking about is the larger grant program in August with SIPA. Is that right? Okay. There are lots of public engagement platforms out there, and you can spend a bundle of money on them. So we are certainly looking for Cadillac, but we want to make sure that nowadays, with the pandemic and us working virtually so much, clearly at some point we're going to go back in person, but I think there's a significant segment of the population and our residents that'll want to continue to follow their government, virtually, and we just want to be able to participate, even if they can't be there in person. So we just want to make sure we make that as easy as possible. And we also know that communicating with the public needs to be done in different ways. You can't, some people, like text, some like email, some like Facebook. So we want to, and we try to push messages out in communications, many different ways to reach as many people as possible. All righty, the next item is adding a timekeeping module to our Cassell financial system. With our financial reporting system, we have multiple modules, and you build the modules depending upon what you acquire the modules based on what you need to run your government or what you find helpful. And for a number of years, we've had the payroll module, but that's on the back end of it. But on the front end, there is a timekeeping module. And one area that we've identified as staff that we're not where we should be, at least not by today's standards, is our timekeeping. And what I mean by that is the automation of it, the tracking of it, which can be done in our integrating with our financial system. So basically, instead of the paper timesheets, which we're still doing, we would like to transition to a paperless system where the employee or the employee supervisor will fill out the biweekly time card. It's approved by the supervisor, then it's shipped over to City Hall for processing, for setting up the payroll, and all of it ties into our financial system. Right now, it's fairly manual, and it doesn't need to be. We have this module. The upfront cost is $3,750. And then there's a small annual fee, as there is with all the modules that we use, and that's our monthly Cassell cost to Cassell to maintain and support our financial reporting system. So I do think this will have huge benefits and make sure that our timekeeping is accurate and ties into our financial system with the least amount of manual work.
It seems like this might even pay for itself in a couple of years.
I think it might. I really do. Really do. The next item is we were very fortunate. I guess it's been maybe 5 years ago. It's hard to believe, but at least 4 years ago, to apply for a grant through DOLA, Department of Local Affairs, and to obtain John Kane as our best and brightest intern. And John was in graduate school at the program. He had a good bit of life experience already in local government, and was pursuing his master's, and then wanted to get into city management. So we did have, this is a way DOLA assists local governments in getting support through interns at relatively low cost. For over 2 years, the DOLA will split the cost of an intern, and I think the cost is a little over $40,000 for the 2 years. So it's enough to provide, some assistance to the employee or the intern to survive financially and get some experience. And after John was here 2 years and we benefited from this program, we found a way to keep John on board. And really that's probably the best scenario with this program, is that you get an intern who works out so well, you want to find a way to keep them because you see the value of them. So we'd like to, you have to wait a few years before you reapply, but we would like to suggest to council that we apply for another intern. We've certainly got plenty of work to do at the city, projects going on, so much happening. We had great success with our first time with the Best and Brightest program. They've changed the program a little bit. It actually makes it a little more manageable financially, I think, because year one, you would budget $10,000. Year two, you'd budget $20,000. Year three, you'd budget another $10,000. So they've carried it over 3 years instead of 2 years. So if we were to get an intern, and it is the city's choice whether we get to interview our who we'd like to interview, and then we get to decide whether we want an intern or not. If we don't find the right person, we don't have to do it next year. But so what I'd like to ask is that we budget $10,000 to match that first half year of the program. This would be bring an intern on. If we do match, it would bring the person on in July, most likely July of next year. And then it would be for 2 years, starting July of next year. So, and it would be, of course, we can't commit from 1 year to the next financially, but I, of course, want to let you all know what the cost would be. If we do accept an intern, the year 2 cost would be $20,000, year 3 would be $10,000 approximately.
Andy, are these interns full-time or are they part-time?
They are full-time.
Because that is literally quite a bit below minimum wage.
It's a stipend, yes, and they go into it knowing that, yeah.
Okay.
So it's yes.
Very
Over
program.
3 years, it's about $13,300 a year average, or about $640 an hour. And over 2 years, right, we're averaging about $15,000 a year, or about $7.35 an hour. So it does seem like it's a lot of bang for our buck, but I guess interns have to start somewhere.
Yeah. It does provide.
Yeah. It's a very prestigious program. It's a big deal in Colorado.
Yeah, Jonathan, I'm assuming that there are your required credits that you earn through this program as well. Okay.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit. There's several schools that go into it now. There's a MPA program and a political science or public policy program. So the requirements are a little bit different, but they all basically revolve around local government administration and policy.
Great. Okay. Thank you. That's a great program. Love it.
And the last item under administration I'd like to ask is if this council might consider paying the dues for John and me to join the International City Managers Association. This is the primary professional organization for city management, and it's the annual dues are based upon salary, a percentage of the salary. So for John and me together, the total cost for next year would be $1,600. And I know that may sound like a lot, but it is, again, fairly common for municipalities to pay for the dues of the primary professional organization for your more senior staff. So again, it's just something I know that John and I would both like to get more involved with. ICMA as a professional organization provides a lot of resources. And so again, that would be the final request under administration.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you can't count the value of the networking and so on, various meetings and so on. So I quite frankly look at it as a bargain.
You know what the main, what we would get out of that, Andy? What the main things that you would get out of that?
They offer quite a few resources if there's a particular subject or problem or solution that you're trying to find in your municipality. They offer, as Bob mentioned, a lot of networking, a lot of resources that wouldn't be available necessarily to non-members. Of course, if you do search around, you can certainly find some information as well. But this is, again, the key group that's dealing with city management problems all the way from the large cities down to the very small towns and villages. So it's really quite a variety, Scott.
When I was at State College, Pennsylvania, we belonged to that, and the contacts we made were invaluable because you learn. You met different people, and over the years you learn their strong points and what they're and if you have a problem, you can go to Joe or Jim or whoever, and sometimes those people are a wealth of knowledge just to guide you through some of the things. It's an organization that I believe is a close-knit group of people.
All righty. The next item is community promotion, and this is just a heads up that next week at our work session next Monday, we have invited the Historical Society of Idaho Springs to come. You may remember they came to council a few work sessions back to say that they would be seeking additional assistance, financial assistance for next year for their operation of the visitor center. And this will be to talk a little more specific. So they are putting together a written request, and we're supposed to have that in time for the packet noon on Thursday. So that should be in your packet so you can actually see the details of what the Historical Society is requesting to help continue the operation of the visitor center on behalf of the city. And the other group that will be coming in that's been scheduled so far is the Idaho Springs Marketing Alliance. And this is the new downtown business owner group that's been working to help operate, oversee, improve our downtown marketplace. And they have submitted a written request for some budget funding. They haven't received budget funding before from the city, so this would be a new request. And they have, again, there'll be a letter in your packet on Thursday that will explain their request, and then we can hear from them directly next Monday. So I wanted to let you know that on those community promotion items, we'll be hearing from at least 2 organizations next Monday as we continue our consideration of the budget. Okay, police department, we've heard from the police department on its highlights. I'd like to go ahead and go next to Public Works Department. John Bordoni is online here, and he will cover the Public Works Department. Our Public Works Department is comprised of multiple entities and services, including from a budget standpoint, streets, parks, and then we get into
Andy, you were muted there at the end. I wasn't sure if you were finished or not.
Said, John, you got everything you wanted.
That's right. Perfect. We're done.
So Public Works services include streets, parks, the ramp fund, which is the fund that's remaining for the Colorado Boulevard reconstruction. The 1% street fund, that's geared towards, capital street projects. And then, of course, the capital improvement fund, which is a catch-all for many capital projects the city's involved in other than streets. So, and then we'll shift into water and wastewater department. John is overseeing not only Public Works, but also our water wastewater department. So, John, I'll turn it over to you to walk us through your items, starting with streets.
These will go pretty quick. Streets, not new excavator, but the excavator has some plastic windows in it. The large front window was hit by a rock and broken out. The driver door was broken out when it was parked at the cemetery by someone. So the cost of replacing those is about $2,200 for those windows. The lawn aerator at the parks is pretty self-explanatory. Replacing trees, it seems like I spend the majority of the budget cutting down cottonwoods instead of planting trees, which that's getting extremely expensive to get anything done, as you know, and removed. So again, I plan on $5,000 for the trees in the parks. Courtney Riley Cooper Park. I think we had some success this year with having the landscapers there, but I just don't think that you can get grass to grow in dirt and rock. So I think we need to look at getting sod down. I did get one quote for a larger section of Courtney Riley Cooper Park, which is about 150,000. I think we can cut that down somewhat and go to a smaller area and make that work better. Unfortunately, when the restroom was put in Courtney Riley Cooper Park, it just destroyed that grass and it has not come back yet. So I think that that's kind of the general direction that we'd like to go.
John, I'm sorry, I got a question on the trees. If you're looking within that 5,000 to replace the smaller trees around the curve, the newer trees on Colorado Boulevard that have died.
Yeah, that was the intent. That's been the intent, but I haven't got that done yet.
Okay, all right, no problem. Thank you.
The ramp, that takes care of the ramp fund, and we feel that that was due in part of because of Colorado Boulevard is why we're using that fund to replace the sod. The 1% street fund.
Hey, John.
I'm sorry.
May I just add one item? And I believe I'm correct on this, is that sod is more expensive than seeding. But if we hit it right in the spring, we get the soil prepared, we put down the sod, we'll be able to use that area much more quickly than we would if we were seeding. Am I generally correct on that?
Correct. If we seed it, you're probably going to have to stay off of it for about 2 to 3 months. If we put the sod down, if it takes root, then we should be able to use it within about 4 to 5 weeks. So that was the one reason for going to that. And as you all know how popular Courtney Riley Cooper Park is, it's almost impossible to keep people off of the grass. We put fences up around where it was seeded before, and it did not bode well. So,
Do we know the cost difference on that between seeding and sodding?
the seeding was about $18,000, the quote that I received, and then the sod was about $150,000.
Are you gonna amend the soil underneath?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something with it. Yes. That includes part of that.
And we have irrigation down there, right? Irrigation
Yes, we
system.
do. Yes. That was all put in when the park was rebuilt. The 1% street fund, the reconstruction of 16th Avenue and Virginia Street. Last estimate we had was around 200,000. I'm really optimistic that you could do anything for $200,000. But one suggestion I would make is that we don't do anything with that until Habitat for Humanity has finished their connections and their where they're going to dig into the street. So there's no point in doing that and then have to tear it back up again. And I'm not sure, I've not heard when they intend on starting on any of that.
But we are on a short distance, just past the Elks, just to the Elks. And the rest is all private road.
Well, 16th comes down, or Wall Street comes down the hill all the way where it joins 16th.
Oh, okay. I thought there was portions of that they showed it was private. So I was wrong.
To the east of Wall Street, it is private.
Okay.
That portion of Wall Street, we actually do have some right of way on. The upper portion of Wall Street up there, we don't have any right of way on. So it's kind of spotty in between each spot, each house, basically. Some did give us right of way and some didn't give us right of way.
So you're gonna coordinate then with the whole project with them paying their fair share? If we do any work on own city easement?
Yeah, we would stay within the city's easement.
Okay.
Yeah, and John, I think just to clarify on that, as my recollection is, last time I looked at it, basically the entire 16th Avenue hill there from Wall Street down to Virginia is in city right away. Am I right?
Yes.
Most of it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of it is, yes.
Yeah, and then what I think a good bit of Wall Street up on top does cross through private property. Most of it, there is a small section that's in right of way. But the good news is, at least for the hill, that is currently city right of way within.
Right. And then this project wouldn't change the degree of steepness on the hill. It would just put somewhat of a better surface on the roadway. So, that's about it.
And John, just
So,
one other thing, if I may interject, sorry. I think this will be elsewhere in the part of this will be elsewhere in the budget. There will be costs as a reminder to council, to relocate or lower the water and sewer lines in that area, because they're very shallow. And whatever we do in there, it's been our practice to replace water and sewer lines where needed before we replace the street, or when we're replacing the street, because we want to be digging it up again in a few years. So just want to mention that as well. There will be costs to lower the water and sewer lines as well, and also some costs related to improving the drainage on that hill, as well as the actual road surface.
correct. Next one is a capital improvement funds. And Andy, I'll let you speak to the first few of those.
Sure. The first bullet there is our downtown parking structure, transit center, mobility hub, design and engineering. We'd like to, we're proposing that this be plugged in for next year. We don't know the exact cost yet. That'll, when that's put out for, to bring on a firm to actually do the design, that'll come back to council. But CDOT does pay 80% of the cost of design and engineering. You may recall that CDOT, with their funds for the parking structure and the mobility hub construction, is a 50% match. But for the design and engineering, the good news is they pay more of the cost of that. So we would also need, before any design is done, we would need to have an IGA. We will need to have an IGA, intergovernmental agreement with CDOT. And there's been a lot going on behind the scenes with this, a lot of back and forth with CDOT. And it seems like CDOT is open to considering additional assistance to make this program complete, particularly with the rising costs and some of the related improvements that need to happen with this transit center concept and what CDOT would like to see. So we'll be back and we'll update council as soon as we have more information on that. But I can tell you it's being actively considered by CDOT. We have meetings every other week with CDOT, and actually we're quite pleased with how open they are to working with us. Now, and of course that would all need to come together in an IGA that council's comfortable with, CDOT's comfortable with, that shows how this is all going to come together, how it'll be paid for. So just want to let you know that's moving along, but we would, in case we are fortunate to get to the point where we've adopted the IGA, we want to start design and engineering on the mobility hub and parking structure. We want to have that as a placeholder in the budget for next year.
Andy, that IGA is undetermined how that's going to work. It's just a matter of negotiation right now.
That's right. They have committed, CDOT has committed to $4 million for the construction of the parking structure, plus design and engineering costs above and beyond. So, but again, we've got to make sure we're clear on our commitment to that, matching that, and how that's going to work through the downtown improvement district that's being formed, and then also through future parking revenues, how that will be paid back. So we need to make sure all that's laid out before we go in the IGA. So CDOT knows, we know exactly how it's all going to come together. Yes, sir.
Andy, this was brought up at the last meeting when 4 Points made their presentation, and the traffic engineer was either not aware or didn't include this. I just hope going forward, when it looks more promising than I was led to believe at the last meeting, And I just hope we keep this in mind when they come back with their final plan that this is possibly going forward, and the traffic study should be adjusted a little bit, I think. But in any case, once again, dealt with walking parking consultants in State College, and they were a great company to work with.
Very good. Yeah, they have been very creative. It's a very challenging site. As I'm sure you know, Arthur, and experienced in your work, from what I know of it, that there are all different ways you can design a parking structure, and there's certain ways that are more efficient than others. And of course, it's a constrained site, and we thought we would be able to use some more CDOT right away than CDOT's willing to give us right now. So we've had to adjust our design. So we are trying to still hit the desired number of additional spaces with a design that's not quite as efficient as we would like it. So it's a work in progress.
And after a few years, the maintenance is very challenging too on those parking garages, but it all works out.
Yep. The next item is the relocation of the businesses, the AOK garage, the laundromat, and the ski shop. That is still actively in discussion with the property owner and with CDOT. CDOT has also stepped up to be willing to assist with funding with relocation of the businesses. That is part of what they do for projects that they're involved in when requested and when needed. So again, we don't have the details on that yet, but it does look like, and this is relatively new information, is that CDOT will be able to assist us with some of those costs to move those businesses over to the other side of the interchange. Again, the details of that arrangement would need to come back to council, and probably start out as an MOU, memorandum of understanding, and then have to be an agreement that all parties are comfortable with. So more information coming on that, but again, we would like to put a placeholder in for making that land swap happen, and the cost of rebuilding the businesses on the other side with this land swap. $800,000. We plug in about $900,000 to make that happen. We also will need, and this will be coming to council probably pretty shortly here, in order for the city to have a full parcel available on the west side of the intersection where that Mustang parking lot is. We use it as a city parking lot, but about half of it is in the CDOT right away. And so we've been working for quite a while with CDOT, and it's been approved by the Transportation Commission to have the rest of the CDOT right away that is in that parking lot turned over to the city. But in order for us to use it for as part of this land swap deal, we would actually need to purchase it. And again, we'll provide more information to council on that. I know they've done the appraisal on it. CDOT's done the appraisal on the value of that right away to acquire for the parking lot. And again, that would come back to council for approval, review and approval. So again, once we get, city gets ownership of that entire parcel, the Mustang parking lot, then that clears the way for us to be free to move those businesses if that's what all parties agreed to. So again, we just wanted to set the stage for making that happen, assuming it all comes together next year. We wanted to make sure that is a budgeted item. I'm not sure of what the contribution would be from CDOT. Typically they pay 50% of the costs of relocation, but it's a little unclear if that would cover all, apply to all of those costs or part of those costs. Again, we'll make sure we have that information to report it when we have it. And they're estimating that parcel would cost about $100,000. But again, the good news is now that CDOT's willing to participate with the city in relocating the businesses, we believe we would more than recoup that $100,000 purchase with the assistance that we would get from CDOT in moving the businesses and sharing the cost of moving the businesses. So that's encouraging. John, you want to touch on the next item? The Public Works Facility?
So as you know, we tried to get a portion of the Public Works facility accomplished. There is a possibility that we could get additional funding from DOLA. Andy was checking on that there could be an additional $100,000. I don't know. We'll see where this goes, I guess.
Yeah, this is a tough one. As council knows, our bids came in much higher than the estimate for the cost of this project for project one. We're just talking about site, initial site work, initial site preparation, and some outbuildings. That was going to be project one. And you'll recall that we got $200,000. We have been awarded a $200,000 grant from DOLA for project one. And at our last meeting with council discussing this matter, we mentioned that we could request to DOLA supplemental funding to help close that gap a little bit between what we were expecting the cost of the project to be and where the bids fell. So we did hear back. We did make that request formal request to DOLA. DOLA is able to get. We did ask for DOLA to split the difference with us in the additional cost, which I think was like $170,000 each from the city and from DOLA. They came back and said, they have limited funding, supplemental funds with every cycle, and they said they could do $100,000. So what that would mean is we would, if we want to move forward with project one, we do have an additional $100,000 from DOLA. So that would be the 200 that we've already been awarded plus an additional 100,000. So it'd be 300,000. And then the city would need to pay for the rest of it. And that would be, John, what was that revised cost? Do you remember? I don't know if I put that in here.
It was just shy of still 850,000. Does that sound right?
I think that's right. The bid came in closer to $1 million, and we did meet with the lowest responsible bidder, talked about some cost savings. We included JVA, our engineer, and we were able to get the bid price down to about $850,000, as John mentioned. So I guess the question for council is, and I will need to get back to DOLA, and if I could get some direction from council at this time, that would be great, is do we want to move forward with project one, knowing, and this is the site work and the outbuildings, total, and this would come back to council for final approval, bid award, contract award, but about $850,000, knowing that 300 would come from DOLA and the balance would come from the city. Or so that's one option. Another option is to say, let's not do it as two separate projects. Let's wait to see what we get for project two, and recall that we have submitted an application to DOLA for project two in the amount of $600,000. And that the hearing is in December, and we should know by the end of the year whether we got the 600,000 or something less than that. And then we'll know in total how much we have from DOLA to put towards this project, the entire project. And then what we would do is reject these three bids for project one. We would then bid everything as one project, probably in the spring, once we know what we have received from DOLA and what the city's contribution would be, and see where things fall. I personally, and it's anybody's guess, I don't know if we're going to see a lot of savings in construction costs in the next 6 to 9 months. I think the costs are going to continue to be high based on supply chains, labor costs. All the contractors are busy right now. It might get better. There might be some efficiencies with bidding just one project as opposed to two projects if we have the same contractor and you don't have two different mobilization costs. with two different projects. So really those are the two options. I guess what John and I are looking for from council is, should we move forward with project one, try to get that knocked out by the end of this year, most likely, or early next year, and then bids project two separately, and that's the actual building, project two, or do we want to just put a pause on this and wait and see how we fare with our second grant request to DOLA?
I, for one, would really appreciate knowing how much we're into it total. I'd like to see one and two. And I know that there is a risk. Perhaps concrete prices go up even higher. And I just think that it's worth taking the risk, because we would know total how much we're going to be into it for.
Yeah, I think we ought to go with a total package. Like you said, mobilization, that's a small percent, but and you still have one contractor. You know, you run the risk of two projects, two different contractors, which sometimes doesn't work.
Right.
Hey, Andy, refresh me on project one. Project two is the building. What's project one?
Project one is mostly site work and a few of the outbuildings like the salt dome.
And that's $850,000.
It's hard to believe.
Wow.
Well, one reason some of the costs were cut is because we postponed some of the work to put into project two, some of the retaining walls. So unfortunately, if we don't cover the cost in project one, we're probably going to cover them in cost in project two, which
Right.
would increase that one substantially also. So,
Which I don't know if we complete project one and then figure out we can't complete project two. Are we any farther ahead, or is that?
well, I mean, we're further ahead. We have a salt storage building,
Yeah.
and a small outbuilding, but we don't have, a building to put us in.
Well, I go for project two myself, so I'll do it all under one umbrella.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Andy, I'm wondering if in our calculations, if we've figured in potential values that we might derive from the existing public works site under different scenarios.
If we sold the current public works
Well,
site,
sold it, leased it, whatever.
that is a consideration, Bob. You're absolutely right, that if we find we don't have a need for the current public works site, it could be sold. And this has been a few years ago, we did the appraisal. It was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was quite modest. And part of I think it was like, John, I mean, around 150,000 was the appraisal for the value of that site, I think.
Yeah, it was not much, because the site is really limited because of the big 5 tunnel that runs under the east side of the property. So,
Okay, good point. Yes. Okay, thank you.
But you're right, Bob. There is some money that could be, with the sale of that property, could be put towards this project. That's right. Maybe with the land values increasing, maybe it's closer to 200 and 250 nowadays. I don't know. But part of it could be built on. But as John said, the eastern part of that site is not buildable.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I think what I'm hearing from council is let's go with one project. We don't lose our 200,000 grant that we have been awarded for project one. We made clear with Clay Brown about that. So that stays in effect. We've been awarded that contract, so we know we have that. And then we should know by late this year, early next year, January, what we have to work with, an additional funding from DOLA with our second request, that $600,000 request. And then we'll come back to council with what we're looking at. So, okay, the next item is the police station, design and engineering for police station. This has been a placeholder in the budget for a couple of years. And what this is regarding is, as we know, the city now has the property on 103, where the parking lot is on 103 across from the old high school. The city has acquired that property from CDOT. It was given to the city at no cost, and for the purpose of building the new fire station for Idaho Springs, the Clear Creek Fire Authority fire station. So the fire authority has started preliminary design work on the fire station, master plan for that site. So if all goes well, if they're in design next year and construction the following year, it's possible we could, fingers crossed, be able to move our police department from their woefully inadequate former state police barracks down by the roundabout into the current fire station. It is a city-owned building. There are multiple bays in there. The concept would be to finish out a couple of those bays as office space on the first level that would be accessible to the public. There'd also be a couple bays that could be used for storage of police cars. And then, of course, we have the second level that could be used as a training room and for other city purposes. So if the fire department, fire station construction moves along as hoped, we would like to make sure that we're ready to, with the construction plans, to actually put the renovation into effect when the fire department vacates that building. So we would recommend putting in about $20,000 to hopefully start design and engineering next year for renovating that space for the police department.
What will that do to the current request for what they want at the current building then, Andy?
Can you tell me a little more, Jim? I'm sorry.
Well, remember they wanted paint, I think down in their bathrooms renovated. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but will we skip on that because of the 23 budget into their new facility tentatively that they're going into?
Well, I think that's a council decision still, Jim. We have the right to either accept or not, but I think he's talking of doing that with knowing the fact that the new police wasn't going to get renovated for another year and a half or something.
Oh, are you asking Jim about making some interim improvements at the current location?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I recommend that we do some improvements at the current location. We know it's going to be at least a couple of years till the best case scenario, till we can move into the new police station. So I would recommend, in fact, I'd like to talk with the chief about seeing if there may be even some, every year we budget a certain amount of building maintenance money, if there might be even some money, depending upon how the budget's looking going into the end of this year, that we might be able to do some modest improvements using the current budget monies that we have for building maintenance at the current location. And then I think we should do some, like the flooring that the chief mentioned and some other things. I think without a huge cost, I think we can, what I was hearing from the chief is that we can make some, spending a little bit of money now will help tide us over until they can get a better situation. So I would certainly recommend that we do make some modest improvements now.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Andy.
Andy, I would agree, especially since the number was only about $8,000.
Yes. And again, I believe that the chief's going to have some of that money in his budget available by the end of this year, right? From what last I looked. So yeah, so I'll get together with the chief and see if we can maybe get a few of those things that he wanted to get done this year out of this year's budget that's already approved, and maybe make sure that we have something budgeted for next year. Get that nailed down.
Is that building owned by the state, Andy?
It is. Yep. Yeah, we lease it for $1 a year. Okay. West End Hose House restoration. Again, some of these numbers, are really hard in this current environment to determine, but we're guesstimating about $120,000 to renovate the West End Hose House. There's some significant structural damage to that building that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. The design has been completed for that. So I think we're at a point where we can go ahead and put that out to bid. And we do have a $25,000 bequest that was made by an individual to the Historical Society that can be put towards this project. So again, before, when this is, before this work is done, it'll come back to council for council's consideration and approval. But I want to let you know that is a high priority project. Took a little time to get the design finished, but now we want to make sure that the work actually gets done. Trails construction at Virginia Canyon Mountain Park. That contract has been approved by council for construction of the first trails at Virginia Canyon Mountain Park. And you may recall that the contractor was just not able to start the work until December of this year. So although the contract has been approved, it was understood that they wouldn't start work until earlier than December of this year. So we are looking, so virtually all of that work will be done next year. So that'll be a budget item for next year, even though it was in this year's budget. So that'll be carried over to next year. And most of that construction is being paid for through grants that the city was fortunate to receive from Colorado Parks and Wildlife and from Greater Outdoors Colorado, GOCO. The next item is replacing the playground equipment at CRC Park. Again, we're guessing around $150,000. A few years back, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, John, we replaced the equipment at Macy Ruth Mill Park, and that was about 70,000. Am I right?
It's close to 80,000 for the 3 pieces plus the play surface. So unfortunately, 150,000, we probably will replace some of the equipment. Most of it's probably going to go into the repair and replacement of the surface.
Is that equipment deteriorated pretty badly?
One piece, a couple of the pieces are new. The one center piece with the slide and the largest piece is no longer, of course, offered, and it's missing some pieces, so it needs to be replaced.
So we do think this would be a good project, a good candidate project for a GOCO grant. And so we're going to take a close look at seeing if we can find some GOCO funding for a project like this. We think it would be well received. This is the city's main playground in the middle of the city. It's heavily used. As John mentioned, there are some of the features there that are can't be replaced. They can't find parts, and the surface is in pretty rough shape, the ground surface. So we'll come back with more information to council on this, but we're thinking this is rising to a higher and higher priority since it gets such great use. John, you want to touch on the next one?
Citizens Park restroom restorations. The design and engineering has begun on that after a extremely slow start with another party. They are doing architectural, they are doing the engineers. I hope to hear something in the next couple of weeks on the progress on that to get it out to bid.
And you may recall in this council that we did start with one architect and it just went very, very slowly. And we just weren't able to get the drawings done to the point where we could put it out to bid. So what we're doing is we're trying to get over the finish line with the bidding documents, and then as soon as we have that, we'll put it out to bid and get this project underway. Let's see, library landscape project. You may recall we brought this to council also a few meetings back, and the bids came back much higher than we were expecting, about $300,000 we got 2 bids, about $300,000. Well, the low bid was $300,000. The other was considerably higher than that. We did meet with the low bidder on this and tried to identify some savings. We did find some savings, brought it down to like $280,000, I believe. Still a very expensive project for what we believe we're getting. We did apply for a CDOT grant. I want to thank John Kane for really working very quickly. We were up against a pretty tight deadline to get that submitted before their application period closed. Unfortunately, we did just hear that we did not get awarded the grant. We thought we had a decent chance at it, but we were not awarded the grant. We've had a pretty successful track record, but I guess they got concerned about some of the building maintenance repair work that was involved in the project. And I guess the update for council is that we at the moment don't have any grant money to put towards this project. So the question is, and we're looking for direction on this item as well, does council want to move forward with this landscaping project in some manner or form? Do we want to, again, right now, we don't have any additional supplemental funding identified. It would just be on the, the city's funds. Or do we want to delay this project, try to seek out grant funding, maybe from other sources, and try to start the project in the spring? John, before we open it up to discussion, is there anything you want to add on this? I know we just got this information, and is there anything you want to add on this?
Yes, sir. I talked to CDOT today. I think what happened was their person who was in charge of the program left right when we applied, and I think that impacted the way our narrative is read. It may not have been fully understood, the project. So there is another round in spring. So I do think we could still budget what we budgeted for this project and have a relatively good shot at achieving a grant for it.
Is there any?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is there any concerns with starting this project this time of year? It seems a little late in the season.
I would say yes, there is, Scott. It is starting to get a little late in the season. Well, I guess the hope was if we were fortunate, this was the last cycle for the CDOT grants until the spring. And we were just trying to get our application in to see if we could get the grant and maybe try to get some work started this fall. Again, we might not have been able to get all the final landscaping done, but at least we could show some progress on the landscaping.
Yeah. This really is a pretty high priority item in my mind because of our, number one, the agreement we just negotiated with the library district, and the fact that it's been so ugly for so long right on Minor Street. And we've been very concerned about the appearance there. And so my feeling is we still need to keep it as a high priority. And I'm wondering if if I recall, the library district did have a budget for landscaping prior to the negotiation. And I'm not sure if they might be willing after the negotiation to help us out some or not, but they're in a they're very anxious to see some improvements there as well.
I was told that the money had been reappropriated.
Say again, Jonathan, I'm sorry.
I was told that the money was going to be used for a different purpose.
Oh, is that right? Okay. I was afraid of that. But I understand after the agreement. So I guess my feeling, it's a very high priority project as well.
If we look to the spring, do we have to have these bids start over again? They're going to rebid it, right?
Yes, that's right. I would say we'd be in a situation kind of like we are with a public works facility. If we want to delay the project, we would reject the bids and not move forward at this time, and then we rebid it in the spring. And hopefully we get some clarity if there are any other grant options out there. I think GOCO is a possibility. This is a park, and I think certainly that's a possibility, and there may be some other options. I think John is also suggesting that we could reapply through the CDOT Revitalizing Main Streets program in the spring. So I think as long as we can say, and I know we are saying that it's a high priority and we're committed to getting this project done one way or the other, but at this point, we think it's best to continue seeking additional funding, delay the project until the spring, but one way or the other, we're going to endeavor to try to get this project underway in the spring. I think that would go a long way.
That sounds like a good route to me.
Okay. Okay. And bidder understands that we really likely weren't going to be able to move forward without some grant assistance. That, it just said even with some of the savings there, we were able to identify with them. We did give them the heads up. So I think they'll be disappointed, and we're disappointed, but I think that's probably the right way to go is to hold off until the spring. So. Okay, I know we're running out of time here. I'll try to get through the rest of the capital improvement fund, and then I think we'll talk about water and wastewater next budget meeting that we have. So let's see here. Replace 2 City Hall lower level exterior doors. Those are in really bad shape. They're rusted. They leak a lot of air. John can tell you because his office is right near one of those doors, and they howl and when the wind's blowing. So I know Public Works has done what they can with those doors, but we think the time has come to replace them. And also, we'd like to get this would include the cost of a pass key system, a card reader system, so the doors would be open, automatically with the proper ID. City Hall windows exterior restoration. This has been a project's been in design for a long time. We would like to get this project underway. So I think it's reasonable to get this work done next year. This would be restoring the City Hall main level windows, which are those wooden windows, which are very beautiful, but also need a lot of maintenance and need restoration, and they leak as well, and many of them don't open. So we'd like to get that done, and also include some work on the exterior of the building. City Hall restrooms, again, this is another project that we were all ready to go right before the pandemic started, and then a lot of our projects were put on hold. So we would like to get this project underway, and we might be able to get it underway even before the end of this year, but most certainly a good bit of it will be done in the new year. And this is to bring our main City Hall restrooms up to current standards. Landscape drainage project at Anderson Park City Hall, $150,000. After the bids we got on the library park, I'm a little uneasy about this as well, but we're not talking about concrete work, or not much at City Hall. What we're talking about is the grading is all, a lot of the grading is not proper at City Hall. The drainage slopes towards the building in certain locations. The downspouts empty right on the side of the building. So there's a good bit of regrading that needs to happen. Also, we'd like to redo the garden out front of the building. That's also been identified as a need, and maybe dress up the backside where the train is a little bit to make it a little more park-like. So that is some work that we're recommending for around City Hall. Train coach continuing exterior renovation. John, do you want to touch on that? John Kane?
Sure. Council, the train went to Silver Plume earlier this year because it had failed on the exterior and water was getting into the coach. So the coach is up there now. It's been taken apart and assessed, and they've provided us a work schedule. The next piece of work that needs to be done is the coach needs to be weatherized. So that just includes all the exterior work that would make it a waterproof box. Once that's complete, the train, by all purposes, could come back to, and when I say train, I mean the coach could come back to Idaho Springs. The rest of the work beyond the exterior of the coach is probably something that History Colorado will work with us on. We did have a grant earlier in time that covered some exterior work that wasn't documented as well as they do now. The standard has changed in the 40 years or whatever it's been since. So they won't cover that exterior work because they think they've already paid for some of it. Once it's done, the next project is the trucks, which are basically the wheel system under the train. And then after that, the interior restoration. Those projects are all kind of dependent on the weatherization of the coach. And that's the next big project we have. That's the piece that the city likely is going to have to fund. I may be able to find grants from places like El Pomar or somewhere like that, but there won't be any state money involved in the exterior renovation or the restoration. We did have a grant from Freeport McMoran to pay for some of the structural wood that needed to be replaced on the coach. That wood needs to season for a year before it can be used. And so we're in progress on that piece of it. But the rest of the exterior renovation is what needs to happen here. So that'd be like the roof, installation of the windows, the siding, all that kind of stuff.
Jonathan, are we receiving any, well, I guess, pressure, I should say, from the Loop or any of those entities up there to get the car back out of there? I wonder if it's in their way from other projects.
They're really being great with us. The thing is, they don't want the project to languish because of the state the coach is in. It really needs to be weatherized so we can at least make it like a come look at it kind of thing. So there has been a little pressure to make sure that we keep moving forward. The interior restoration, if that doesn't happen immediately, it's not going to be the end of the world. We have most of the equipment. It's just a matter of getting it reinstalled. This is the piece that's really critical. Is this also? I think there is a contingency built in there. I really think the work's probably going to be closer to 80,000. But just with the cost of everything this year going up, we wanted to make sure we got it covered.
Okay, the next item related to the train, which is a high priority, is a train shelter. Again, the cost is a little bit of a shot in the dark there, but we like to have an attractive shelter for the train. This has been identified by History Colorado and by everyone who appreciates the train, that knows a little bit about it, that one of the ways to preserve it moving forward is to have it covered from most of the elements. And that includes the sun and rain and ice. So we would like to definitely build a shelter next year. Again, this is an item that we think we might be grant worthy through an organization like GOCO. So we would certainly see what we might be able to get with grant funding. But one way or the other, we think we need to make this project happen for next year. John?
This is what will give the state the state is of the opinion that we didn't take care of the train as well as we should have, and that we should have built this cover years ago. And I think that our financial situation, of course, is our own. It's not theirs to say, but we do have a 160-year-old train sitting there next to the highway, and covering it will make sure it's there for our kids to enjoy. So we need to get that cover on. That's going to give the state some assurance that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing with this train, and they'll help us, I think, after that with the funding of the rest of the restoration project.
All righty, I know we only have a few minutes left till our regular meeting. John, do you just want to touch on that last item, and then we can wrap up our work session for this evening?
Mayor and council, what I'd like to do is replace a 2008 GMC Chevy pickup with a new 1-ton with a 8-foot plow and a 1,500-pound liftgate. The truck was approximately 42,000. The liftgate is about, or the plow is about 8,000, and the liftgate's about 3,000. And that was numbers from a way back. So hopefully that still covers that. But it may be 2 years before we get one delivered, but we could order it. And that was about it for streets, parks, and.
So Bob and I had talked about a Parks and Rec comprehensive plan. Is the staff planning on doing it in-house or having somebody else do it, outsource it?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the first part.
Bob and I talked about doing a Parks and Rec comprehensive plan. So we knew what we were doing with all this parks and recs. Is the staff planning on doing that in-house, or are you going to outsource that?
This is the first that I had heard about it, to be honest with you. So
yeah, we brought it up when we were talking about the marijuana tax. I
Yeah.
don't know if Andy or anybody looked into that.
Okay. We will definitely look into that and have some more discussion with council about that.
Yeah, it just gives us more of an outline. That's all.
Yep, it is something we've considered over the years, doing our own parks and recreation master plan. I know the county's underway with a project, of course, countywide. But yes, I think we should have a little more discussion on that.
Hey, Andy, you had
Yeah, go ahead.
mentioned something about some of these projects were approved this year or the previous year. Is that money, does that make a difference on the budget? Because I know there's a lot of asks for this year. It seems more than in recent years. There's a lot of money that is being projected out there. Does that help us that some of these were approved in prior years, that the money's still sitting there? Or?
That's right. The fund balance has built up in our improvement fund, particularly because of some of the delayed projects we had with the pandemic. So yes, I mean, we'll know more once we go through the 2020 audit. We did receive that. Lorraine is reviewing that, and we are working on getting that finalized, but that'll inform our financial position for finalizing the budget. So yes, Scott, the answer is yes. Some of this is accumulating fund balance. Yes.
Good.
Well, Bob, I'm sorry I didn't do very well with giving us a little break here before the regular meeting. But I think it was a good discussion.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, well, let's see, just 6:59. Let's come back in about 3 minutes, okay? 2 or 3 minutes after 7, and we'll reconvene. And I'll go ahead and take it from there, Andy. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Are we staying on this meeting?
Yes.
And that's
Everybody stay on. Yep.
Thank you.
Rushing yards against Cincinnati in that first one.
Okay, let's see, we're missing Jimmy and Andy this moment. Diane, you're there?
I'm here, Bob.
Okay, hello, you're sounding pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, I'm on the mend.
Good. All right, Jimmy's back, so let's go ahead and get started. It is 7:05 this evening, October 11th, and I'd like to call the regular meeting of October 11th, 2021 to order. And Diane, if we can have roll call, please.
I think I'll go ahead and take this one, Bob. Mike Hillman,
Oh,
Bob
okay.
Boland,
Here.
Chuck Harmon,
Here.
Art Cacavelli,
Here,
Scott Pennell,
Here.
John Curtis,
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
Okay, we have quorum. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. The agenda approval, need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'd move to approve the agenda for October 11th, 2021 meeting.
Okay, Chuck, and someone else was speaking up there.
Second.
Okay, so that was Scott. Okay, thank you. Discussion? Any changes or additions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Conflict of interest tonight. Do we have any members of the council who have a conflict of interest but feel that they do? Not hearing any, we'll move on. The approval of the minutes for September 27th, 2021. Need an approval or a motion there, please.
Move to approve the minutes from September 27th, 2021.
In a second, please.
I second.
Okay, any discussion on those? Looked to me like they're pretty accurate. Okay, let's see, all in favor of approving the minutes then, say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, approval of bills to October 11th. Need a motion on that?
I move to approve the bills for, to October 11th, 2021.
Okay, Art, motion, a second, please.
Second.
Okay, Scott, the seconds. Okay, discussion on the bills. And,
I have a question.
okay, Art, go ahead.
Page 7, number 94455. Invoice for block 57. I'm just curious what block 57 is. At the very bottom of the page, one up from the bottom of the page, page 7. Oh, yeah, page 7. It was $1,204.
Then block 57, that new apartment building.
Yes,
a gold digger.
yeah, I believe so, John.
What is that? I'm sorry.
So would Jared know?
That's a JVA review for block 57.
Yeah.
AJ, okay. All right, thank you. I have one other. This is for Miss Carmen. Page 9, at the very top of the page. General ledger, $14,056.70. I'm not sure what that means.
What part of it?
The general, the $14,056.70, general ledger.
I don't,
I mean,
can't
general
answer.
legal. I'm sorry,
Right,
general
I can't
legal.
answer for you what general ledger means. I didn't put that on
I
there.
corrected myself, general legal. Is that like a retainer? Or is it,
No, the legal fees of the month, that's what always, I think it's how it always appears on the Andy shaking his head. That's just the designation that apparently is put in Casal or something, I guess, that spits out this report. I can't answer that label on there. I'm sorry.
I just thought we were gonna get more detail on items like that. I guess we can't.
Sure. No, every single month, I provide a very detailed invoice of all time spent. Poor Andy can attest. It's probably more than he wants to read, but it's important to me to absolutely provide a lot of detail about what the taxpayers are receiving and what you're paying for. That's open to you absolutely at any time, I'm sure. If you'd like to look at any of those, I absolutely welcome you to do that.
Well, okay, I would like to be on record as I would like to get a monthly detail if I have to. I mean, does that mean I have to go to City Hall and ask for one, or can I just get one on a regular basis automatically from City Hall so I can see what the details are? Or if it's too confidential, that's fine.
Well,
No, this is addressed to the city staff, not you, Karen.
Yeah, we don't provide details, all of the invoices, of course, with the accounts, the bills to be paid. That would be a huge amount, but yeah, any of our invoices, any of the bills are available for review. So the answer is yes, we can get
Okay.
that.
I just come down to City Hall and have an appointment to take a look at those.
Yes, or I can email those to you for your.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but yes, or we can make an appointment to get together with it. Yes, if
okay.
that.
As soon as everybody gets well, I'll.
Okay, we can do
All right.
that.
Thank you both.
And one thing I might mention on the legal bills that we do, and Carmen does, and is very helpful to us, is she breaks out the detail on costs that may be reimbursable on projects. And I know that's something you brought up before, Arthur.
Well, that's where I was going with that, because
Right.
I don't see any monies coming back in anywhere from that or from developers, which I'm going to ask Jared about later. I was under the impression that monies certain monies are payable back to us. I also remember a couple months ago, Lorraine said that she was working on some software or something to show us that in financials, but subsequently I don't, I can't account for it, and I'd just like to see some of those items and how much we're getting back, because I'm going to talk to Jared about talking to developers and see, maybe we're missing some monies.
Okay, so I can talk with Lorraine about getting an update. I know her most recent attention has been on the draft audit review and getting that completed for 2020.
Maybe at the first of the year or thereafter.
Yep. So that hasn't been lost. I know she's been working on that. And as far as the allocating of those costs and the tracking of those costs and being able to show council clearly what's been reimbursed, that's something we can do to you as well. So.
All right. Thank you both.
Yep.
Hey, Andy, along this same subject line, I'm just curious, is how many of your billings come through electronically, and are we keeping paper files on all these bills, or are we in the new age of keeping electronic on everything, or just curious?
Well, most of our invoices and bills come electronically nowadays by email. That's just the businesses saving costs from mailing, and it also sometimes we'll get them paid a little more quickly. So that's the way we receive bills. The way it's interesting you bring this up, Scott. Are there some more efficiencies in this area? We talked about in our work session about timekeeping and payroll and automating that. Right now, all of our invoices are done paper. So we print out the invoices that we receive from our vendors. We code them. Each department will code them as to how they'll be charged to which line items. and then they're given to Kelsey, who pays the bills, prepares the bills for approval, and then pays the bills after council approves them. So to answer your question, Scott, yes, we still keep paper copies of all the invoices that we pay, and we retain those for auditing purposes, because as I'm sure you all know, the part of the audit process involves random checks of invoices and reconciling things, making sure there's backup for our expenses, and we still maintain those in paper form, in large part for auditing purposes. If there may be better ways to do that and more up-to-date ways of doing that, that's something I can certainly discuss with Lorraine and our auditing firm. I don't know if it's a requirement, if they prefer to have the paper copies. Our auditor actually comes to City Hall for 3 or 4 days, sometimes even a week, to actually go through files, to do all of their verifications, and they'll just tell us what files they want us to pull. So if there's a better way to do that, we probably should take a look at that, but we kind of still do it the old fashioned way.
You must have a lot of storage space.
Well, a lot of boxes, yes. Bob, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, any further discussion or questions regarding the bills? All right, need roll call, please.
Mike Hillman, Bob Boland,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes,
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, unanimous. Thank you very much. Diane, I guess do we have any, no scheduled public comment, I'm sure. Any unscheduled public comment?
We do not.
Do not. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Planning community development. Jared?
Thank you. My report, my monthly report is before you. We did have a plan commission meeting in last Wednesday, in which we touched on a review of the draft of the downtown master plan that the city is working on with our consultant team. The plan commission gave some comments, provided some comments. The plan will be reviewed also on Wednesday with the chamber, in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce meeting. And that's open to the public. It's at Tommyknockers. And then the draft will come before the city council for review next Monday. With that, you have my report. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
In this report and several prior, I see that you're very active, as you should be, with discussing different projects with different developers. 4 Points for one at 2800 the Minor, and Soda Creek Highlands. Do you are any of those meetings that you've had, are any of those available for us to get money back from these developers, and have we billed anybody for those developers?
So we got absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So in regards to 4 Points, they have had a formal application submitted to the city, and therefore we charge a deposit, and they have replenished that deposit because they had exceeded the original deposit. We made sure that they did renew that deposit prior to going before Planning Commission. The other 2 items do not have true applications in yet. So we normally do the developers, we grant them the privilege of reviewing preliminary items. But once they submit a full application, they are required to submit a deposit as well.
Is the deposit based on how many times you have spoken to them before the deposit is triggered?
So the deposit for large development projects is a flat fee of 5,000. And as I mentioned, similar to the 4 points, it's something that we monitor, and then we request a replenishment of if that is necessary.
So you may not be able to answer it. Andy, is that what Lorraine's working on to demonstrate where that money has come to the city? Okay.
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
To be able to better, we track it, but not in a form that's easily understandable in our financial reports that council sees. So that's something that we're trying to improve on.
Okay. Also, thank you. Also, Jared, you say staff is in communication with 2800 Minor Street. Staff is in communication with Soda Creek Highlands. What's that exactly mean? I mean, are they coming to you with thoughts and ideas, and you're making comments and guiding them through it? I mean, what does that mean when you say you're in communication? Have they picked up the phone or knocked on your door and come into your office? Can you enlighten me on that process, please?
Yeah, absolutely. For 2800 Minor Streets, I've been in communication with the architect for that project several times. He will send me a concept plan, and I will review it per the city's ordinances and get him comments back in regards to it. And then we'll chat about those comments. So he is slowly progressing. I know you've seen it in this report time and time again, and you're waiting for an application, I'm sure.
Well, not really.
Okay, well, you're probably wondering though what's going on behind the scenes. And that's
with all these guys, yeah, really.
You know, and the same is largely true with Soda Creek Highlands. I've been in communication. We did have a a development team review where we got together a number of different entities and talked about their existing 45 lot subdivision and their need for a new subdivision improvement agreement, an SIA, and what they needed the process that they needed to go through to get that approved.
Can you define what you mean when you say entities?
Yeah, we invited fire district, we invited the county because there's a little piece of road that's outside of City Idaho Springs jurisdiction. Engineering is another one, police oftentimes. I don't recall if we request the police presence at this one.
Okay, well, that gave me a good idea. I've had a group come to me, a representative of supposedly a group of people that would like to meet with the staff at City Hall in reference to the 4 points development, thinking that they may have some ideas and concepts that would be something that the staff should listen to. That's all new to me. It's the first time I've had a group approach me. With that said, I said I would look into it because they would like to sit down. They, of course, say, well, the developer sits down with them. We get 3 minutes at a meeting, but we have some thoughts and ideas now that R1, now that they've been rezoned, then maybe we'll go into building. They're thinking that maybe they have some ideas. I don't know that how to approach that, but I would like to have their day in court if it's possible at some time in the next couple of weeks to sit down with this group. Once again, I was approached by one individual who says he has a group. I was wondering what maybe Andy, you can help me with. How do I proceed with that? Because I would like to, if they have an opportunity to speak to the staff, I thought we should give it to them.
Certainly. Staff is always available to speak with anyone in the community who would like to provide input, even if it's not through the formal process. And of course, there's a place for that as well. But what I hear you saying is there's a group that now that the rezoning was approved, the plan development was approved, that they would like to speak with staff just to give their ideas about what the project might look like moving forward.
Right.
Um,
And I believe one of the individuals is a qualified person as far as being able to discuss at that level. So in any case, I thought maybe sometime in the second week in November or something, if that, I can kind of set it up for that, if I may. I'm going to be gone for a little while, so
Sure.
when I get back, I thought maybe if that's not, depending on how busy staff is, if we can give them a little bit of time, that would be beneficial.
Certainly. Jared, did you have something you want to say there?
I just wanted to echo your sentiment, Andy. I am more than happy to meet with residents, developers, you name it. That's certainly a part of this position, is hearing out concerns and talking with them about what is possible within the realms of the ordinance, or if they wish to change an ordinance, what that process is too. So I'm more than happy to meet with people.
Yeah, I don't think they want to change this. I think they, they want to work within the ordinance, from what I'm gathering. So, okay, when I get back, I'll call you and maybe we could set something up at everybody's convenience. Okay.
I have a question. I just wonder if Carmen has any comment on this discussion.
No, I'm not shy, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll let you know if I do. That it's lovely.
Okay.
It's fine. It's as Andy and Jared said, staff's absolutely available to members of the public, and those conversations are okay. Thanks for asking, though, Bob.
Oh, okay, no problem.
One thing I might add is that a lot of what Jared does as an in-house planner is a day in and day out, answer questions, and speak with folks over the phone, in person, about day-to-day planning activities. And some of them are fairly mundane,
sure,
important to individual residents. And we hear about the big projects, and of course, those are the ones that get a lot of the attention. But day in and day out, I can just want to make sure everyone knows that that's a big part of Jared's time is answering questions, trying to provide good information to people, and hearing them out. So absolutely, that's something we can arrange.
I think I just don't think enough citizens, and not any fault of the staff or city council. I just don't think enough of them realize that, and then and maybe they don't feel sometimes that they have the background to come in and discuss it on a level that Jared's at. So this group seems to be a little more intuitive. So let's give them a try and see what happens.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Jared, go ahead.
Oh, I just agreed. Thank you.
Okay, that's it then. All right. Next section is the attorney.
I have nothing under my own individual title. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, great. All right, next is resolutions. Need a motion regarding resolution number 21.
I'll move to approve resolution number 21, series 2021, a resolution supporting a yes vote on city ballot question 2A concerning the imposition of a city marijuana excise tax.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, second is John. Discussion, please, if necessary.
Are we getting the knowledge out to the public of what this actually is, or?
I can offer just a small bit of information, council and Mayor Pro Tem. As you all well know, you've been to this rodeo before. Under the FCPA, the Fair Campaigns Practices Act, there are limited things that the city can expend funds on in regards to election. In the vein of existing government, keeping neutral about candidates, political issues might seem sort of surprising, but the city as a whole, as an entity, and monies that again flow to everything all the costs of the city, as we've been discussing. Those taxpayer funds are not partisan in any way and should not be politicized under the FCPA. So generally speaking, there are some guidelines that the city has to be real careful about in terms of what we spend money on in regards to ballot questions. The FCPA does allow the city council to express its support for or against certain ballot questions that will appear on ballots in the city. And to answer specifically your question, Councilor Pennell, in regards to this resolution and the next one, which is similar, the FCPA makes quite clear that the city can disseminate and publicize these resolutions if you pass them in the usual manner that you publicize and disseminate resolutions. So the city is limited to putting this on our website if that's what we do with other resolutions we want folks to know about. We couldn't, let's say, rent a billboard, right, and put vote yes up there pursuant to resolution X, because we don't do that with resolutions generally, right? So we can post these and sort of put the word out about these resolutions in the way that we do generally. The factual summary that we are also authorized as a city to generate, that again should be neutral in terms of just presenting facts. That is also something that we can disseminate via our usual methods of getting the word out there. Above and beyond those methods are the methods that all of you have and all of you retain as individuals under the FCPA. You as council members do not lose your ability to get out there and talk to your constituents and explain things like these resolutions and why you want them to vote on these issues. So you can absolutely still express your personal views and opinions as council members. You don't have to say I'm not a councilman. You can do that as long as you do that with your own personal resources and don't use city funds to do that.
All right, thank you, Carmen.
I had a question, and I really don't know if this is for Carmen, or Wonder Diane Brees, and that is that, so we publicize these ballot measures. They recently came to us in a blue book, and it'll have the wording of the ballot measure. And I noticed on more than one of them, it said that, there was no negative comment received. And I'm just wondering, how do most folks know? And by the way, I'm all for this, but I'm just wondering if somebody did have some opposition, how would they get that in the pamphlet?
That's a great question. How would folks know about that? About the opportunity to do that, Councilor Harmon? They're election buffs. Maybe they're unfortunate enough to know an attorney or something. I don't know, quite frankly. I don't think it is well publicized. It's quite common that you see that. No comments received by the constitutional deadline or something like that. Because indeed, many folks are not aware of that opportunity. So hopefully people listening, or when you're out talking to your constituents about this ballot question, you can perhaps do a little education on that front as well and say, hey, by the way, before any question, you have the opportunity to file comments with the city clerk, because it's a little known opportunity. You're correct.
And I think Carmen's right. Election buffs pay attention to this stuff, and they know. They'll contact me.
Okay. All right, let's see. All right, well, that obviously that's a very good question. Back to the specific resolution, I think we discussed it before, that it is a tax that's already being collected for the county's benefit and not ours, although we're certainly authorized to collect that instead. And so, Diane, I think on a resolution, just a straight vote, we don't need roll call on that, if I recall.
You can either do voice vote or roll call.
Okay, let's just do voice vote. We have a motion and a second. So all in favor of passing resolution number 21 regarding the marijuana excise tax, please say yes and raise your hand.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
opposed?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Okay, resolution number 22. Need a motion there?
I move to approve resolution number 22, series 2021, a resolution supporting a yes vote on city ballot question 2B to increase the city sales tax rate by 1% and dedicate revenues to water and wastewater capital improvements.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, Scott seconds. All right, further discussion on this then. I have a feeling we might have some. We
Yeah,
certainly,
my only concern is we could take this water and wastewater out of an enterprise fund into the general fund. That's my only concern.
yes, that is a point. Any other comments? I know, Art, you had comments earlier that I think we pretty well discussed.
Well, the only comment I had is I was hopeful the language was strong enough to indicate that by passing the 1%, that it would relieve the stress on the actual water bills that the residents would be getting, because I mean, that's the, if I interpret right, that's the motive for us trying to get the 1% is to take the pressure off the actual yearly water increase, water rate increase that we've been passing. And if it had to be passed at all, it would be at a lesser rate. I mean, that was my whole understanding of the 1%. That was part of what we were going to do with the monies.
Yeah, I think that stands. I don't know if there's a place in the title of the resolution for that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the public gets that or not. I mean, that's a rhetorical question, but hopefully they do. That would be a less of a burden for the residents as far as reducing the rate increase on the water and sewer.
In any case, we do need to pass this tonight. Whether that's described, that is the intent,
Well,
obviously.
Well, I think what Art's saying, it's a direct result, isn't it? By improving this fund financially, that's the direct result is we don't have to raise the rates at the rate that we propose.
Right.
That's the hope. Yes.
Yeah.
So for next year, if this passes, it helps folks out about $27 bi-monthly. The real big is 9 years down the road, it would help folks by $690 a year. So I think that's pretty big money.
It is.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of passing resolution number 22, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, was that John? Okay,
Yep.
John Curtis. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay, ordinance is on first reading. Have ordinance number 20. Need a motion, please?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 20, series 2021, ordinance adopting the reference, the 2020 edition of the National Electrical Code, providing penalties for violating the same and making conforming amendments to chapter 19 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, that was, who was that?
John. Yeah.
Oh, okay, John, all right. Okay, any comments on this, Scott? I think you might be the resident expert. Oh, well, Jim has his hand up.
Yeah, sorry guys, I didn't did this. I apologize if I missed this. was something wrong that this comes to the first reading? Was there some issues or something through the city for some violations or something?
I'm happy to take it. Wonder's smiling, I'm smiling. No, good question, Counselor Clark, and happy to address this the best I can. And again, if Wonder needs to hop in to save me from misspeaking, I'm sure she will. We are required to be current with the state's electrical code, actually, and Safe Built has come to us and said, hey, it's time for you to actually put on the books what we're enforcing out there in the field. And so it's incumbent upon us, as you can see at the bottom of the first page of this ordinance, we strike through 2017 for the edition that we're on.
Just kind of an update then is what we're after needing to put into the code.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
So I could add a little bit to the electrical code is updated every 3 years, Jim. Generally, that's in review for the period prior to the adoption. And then the year that the code book comes out, 2020 was the last one that came out, apparently. It's usually adopted around July by the state of that year. So 2020, that's usually the adoption period is around July of that year. So we might be lagging just a little bit. I don't know the reason, but we probably have this ordinance every 3 years.
Okay.
Is what I'm assuming.
They're just trying to keep YouTube University guys from going power to ground.
Okay, any other questions? All right, all in favor of passing ordinance number 20 on first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay, no ordinances on second reading, and finance, no report tonight. Assistant City Administrator, John.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council. When we last talked about the parking management services, scope of services and contract agreement, we had a couple of outstanding issues that council directed staff to address in the contract. The first of those related to revenue from citations in the parking facilities. Staff has worked with the interstate, and I believe we've come up with a solution that works for everyone on this issue. Basically, what we did is we defined violation revenue as all revenue collected by interstate for violation of the city's parking plan, minus transaction fees and costs associated with that collection. There is some cost there associated with finding a person and all the collection of that money. We've decided that revenue shall be collected annually, and interstate will provide the city a list of all fees associated with the collection of the money. That way, we're not trying to, it's going to make it easier to account for all funds if we do it annually instead of trying to do it after every month, because collection efforts may take some amount of time on those kinds of tickets that are not collected. The second issue that we had in the contract that needed to be resolved related to staffing levels. There is some concern about how many people would be employed in the parking facilities by interstate. We have worked through our conversation with them, and basically the language we came up with is the number of persons employed at the parking facilities by interstate shall be satisfactory to the city and shall be increased or decreased as desired by the city. Minimum of 1 ambassador shall be on duty at all times during the hours of paid parking, which is currently 10 to 6, 7 days a week. A minimum of 2 ambassadors shall be on duty weekends and holidays between June 15th and August 15th, which is primarily the heaviest part of our tourism season. Interstate will work with the city upon request to provide additional staffing for special events. This would be something like a bike race or the 4th of July or something like that, where we're going to have an influx of a great number of people into the city. We did add a section to this that says failure to meet these minimum staffing levels with notice shall not constitute a breach of this agreement until the 4th such occurrence in a calendar year. The city staff agrees with interstate that there are going to be times that they're not going to have somebody here potentially because of staffing issues that everyone in the country is having right now. We don't want to punish them or penalize them within reason there. So we've kind of worked with them to say if this happens occasionally, we can work with it. It doesn't become an issue until the 4th time it happens in a calendar year. And then we did add something that says that if they do not give us notice that their people are here, that is a constitute breach of the agreement. So that is the two changes that are in the contract that is in your packet. Gareth from Interstate is here as well if you have any questions for him or for me. Yes, sir.
Okay, Gareth, you're on mute. There we go.
I am muted.
Hello, Gareth.
How you doing?
Everything good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, so any comments you have on the agreement?
No, I mean, it's been a long process. As everybody knows, I live in Clear Creek. I love working with everybody. It's all about creating the best situation for everyone. And we appreciate everything that Andy and the mayor and John have done on this. So we're really excited to move forward and continue what we're doing.
Okay.
And thank council for it.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. I was wondering, does anyone have any question for Gareth while he's on here? Jimmy?
Maybe not necessarily for Gareth, but thanks for coming on, bud. But Jonathan, and I'm sorry again, are the residents of the county totally exempt from the parking everywhere, including residential areas downtown? Or is it just the residential areas?
Residents of the county have several areas that they're allowed to park in the city, and it's time limited currently. So basically, if you are a county resident, you can park without limitation in the east, center, and west parking lots of the paid parking areas. Those are the big city lots that we consider. And that's a 3-hour limit for county residents currently. They can also park in the parking lot next to the Resource Center on Colorado Boulevard. And they can park in the busting lot for as long as they'd like to. And then any of the other areas of the city they can park in. They do not currently have the ability to park in the residential zone.
But they can register as a guest still though, right?
If say you had a county resident come to your home, you could register them as a guest to your home, either short-term or long-term, depending on your needs. But they couldn't just come to dinner and park on like 15th in Colorado or I guess 7th, let's say like 16th in Colorado, unless it's in one of the paid spots. They are able to park in those paid spots for the same rules that are on Colorado Boulevard. And then there's been several county events to this point where we have not enforced that. Like for instance, if the Elks Lodge is having an event, we have tried to make sure that people aren't getting tickets. And you know, the Mason Lodge has done similar, the library's done similar. We just did it for the county for the health clinic. So there is exceptions to every rule, but that has been the kind of operating directive.
So if you're a resident, John, or of the county or city, you can't park for free in the residential areas, or you can?
The residential area is for residents of the city only, unless it's marked otherwise.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but that area too, it only goes, it's basically on Colorado 9th to 17th essentially, and then Wall Street in Virginia. So on the outskirts, you know, there's still that flexibility. And we do, if somebody has somebody come into their home, we do have some caretaker people that take care of some folks up in there. So we do try to make sure if somebody has a legitimate reason to be up in there, then we want to make sure they can get in there. So.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jimmy, good question. Anyone else?
Hey, Jonathan, I apologize if I missed it, but we were talking about the percentages of the fines, fees collected for fines that Interstate was collecting, I think, and we were talking about the percentage. What did that percentage end up?
Interstate worked with us on that. We got a pretty good split there. We're going to take 35% of everything after transaction fees. So that doesn't include collection costs, which Interstate's going to give us a detailed list of collections. And I am waiting on a list of citations as well from a report from them that shows citations issued, citations collected, and that kind of thing. And so that's something that we're going to implement as we move forward in this new contract, hopefully really quickly.
And that's what we recommended at the last meeting, I'm pretty sure. So
yes, sir. We'll also develop a new report for City Council based on all this information, and it's going to be similar to our financial report, but just for parking, so you can have an idea of what's happening in the facilities.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second here on ordinance 20. So all in favor? Oh, John, did you have something? Oh, you raised your hand, John Curtis. I thought you
Oh,
were.
I was just bringing it back up.
Oh, okay. All right. All in favor, say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. And thank you, Gareth, for being here. Appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Wait, sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, to be clear, that was a vote on to approve the agreement with Interstate, is that right?
Yes. Ordinance. Let's see, where are we here?
Just for Wonder and Diane's purposes for minutes.
Oh, yes.
That was a request for action under the assistant.
That was a
city
request for
administrator.
action. Yeah, I skipped up. I'm a little foggy tonight, but you're absolutely right. That had nothing to do with ordinance number 20.
No apologies necessary. Did we get a motion and a second on that, Wonder?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we did.
great. You're all good.
Okay. I got that part right, Carmen. Thank you. All right, city administrator. Andy?
Mayor and council, you have my report with no request for action.
All right. City clerk.
Mayor and council, I did not have a staff report for the packet because I've had COVID.
Okay, you too, along with you're in a rather long list of people here, Diane. That's for sure.
Do you have it, Bob?
I don't have it. I have every symptom, but so far I'm negative, but it's in the house.
It's crazy.
Our grandkids have it. Yeah, so anyway. Okay, thank you very much. And I do believe that Wonder now is the official deputy city clerk, if I
She
recall
is.
the exact title. I want to congratulate you and went through the process, so yay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
And
you.
a fine job you're doing too.
Thank you. I appreciate the support, Bob.
Thank you. Excuse me. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Nathan, Police Department.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, you have the staff report before you, and I have no action items and available for questions if you have any. Thanks.
Any questions for Nathan? Hey, nothing at this point. Okay, thank you, Nathan. All right, Public Works, Streets and Parks. We'll wrap it all into one here. John?
Mayor and council, you have my staff report before you. I do have one request for action. This request for action is to redo the ramps around 13th and Minor Street and move the crosswalk by the grade school down to the east a little bit. This is part of one of the grants that Mr. Kane had gotten. And as you can see, the cost of this is far more than what we anticipated. And unfortunately, this bid does not include grinding, removing the old crosswalk striping and redoing it on the street. So that would have to be done by others. So, and for
I'm assuming that definition of others is probably us.
no, we'd have to hire somebody else to do that, to
Okay,
grind it
yeah.
off and to redo it.
I understand what you mean then. Okay. All right. Need a motion on this request for action, please.
Move to approve $108,000 to ACC West Contract Constructors for ADA ramp construction from line 23-00-6016.
A second, please.
Second.
Okay, John, thank you. All right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question. So it says a portion of the money for this project is from a CDOT grant. Do we have that available? How much that is?
That, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy and John, was $25,000.
That's correct.
And this is something that's necessary for the ADA requirement. This has to be done.
It's necessary to meet ADA requirements. It really should be done, yes.
I'm just wondering with our current situation with the school district, we don't know if Carlson's staying there long-term or not. Are we still in lieu of having Carlson go away possibly, or?
Well, I mean, even if Carlson is not there, these sidewalks should meet ADA requirements.
Yeah, it's a sidewalk thing, so that's a good point.
Okay, any further questions?
And John, one thing I might add is that my understanding is that it also includes the cost to reconstruct a storm drain there on the southwest corner of 13th and Minor. Am I right on that?
Yes, it does. I'm sorry. And it also includes two concrete pads by the corner of 14th and Minor, one to install a bench that we had purchased, and also a bike rack that needs to go there too in the brick area.
That helps explain the larger cost. Thank you.
Yeah.
Feel a little better, Scott?
Yeah, I feel a little better.
Okay. We aim to please here. Okay, any other questions? Y'all in favor, say aye. Raise your hand, right hand, please, or
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, John, anything else at all from you?
No, the wastewater treatment plant construction continues on the second basin. They've got a lot of the piping done and the troughs completed. So we hope to get that online mid-November, towards the end of November.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Okay, thank you, John. All right, that's it for Public Works, Water, Wastewater. Any committee reports?
I have a question for John. If we keep delaying this public works building, does that mean your retirement keeps getting delayed?
No, that just means that Nate is not going to move into the fire department, that we will be moving into the fire department.
John, maybe you better leave. Any other interested loaded questions there, Scott?
No. Sorry, John.
All right. Okay, no committee reports per se. Mayor and council, anything from any of the council people? I have nothing tonight at all. No history lesson. I failed historic, but I don't want to report on it. So, okay, adjourn then. Apparently, any comments for the good of the order? Chuck, you have something?
No, I was just saying.
Just everybody stay healthy and well.
Okay, he's ready to bail. Okay, it is 7:58. And we shall adjourn this meeting until the next regular meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Not everybody.
Good night.
Be safe, everyone. Be well.
Yeah, be well.
Thank you.